A second intelligence official is considering filing a whistleblower complaint in response to the actions of President Donald Trump. According to the lawyer representing the first whistleblower, the latest complainant has made a protected disclosure to the Inspector General, making him or her a whistleblower under the law.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has missed a deadline to turn over documents related to the July phone call between President Trump and the newly elected president of Ukraine, which has triggered the official impeachment inquiry. Joining us to discuss his thoughts on all of this is the journalist Michael Tracey, friend of the show. Mike, welcome back.
Great to see you in person.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
I exist in real life.
Not on a blurry Skype screen.
Yeah.
Michael, you've been critical of Democrats for going all in, trying to impeach the president based on this. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, I think Democrats have failed to appreciate the scale of the failure that they presided over with regard to the Russia investigation and Mueller. I mean, that wasn't that long ago. It was only a couple of months ago that was heralded as the smoking gun that would take down Trump. And we have all the central actors who basically orchestrated that failure now taking up the mantle of Ukraine-gate, and they wonder why people have sort of ingrained skepticism about their political motives or whether they're following the logic to its fullest fruition in this new saga. I mean, Adam Schiff run the highlight reel of him making all these grandiose, preposterous claims about what Russia and Mueller would culminate in. I mean, you've talked about this with regard to how MSNBC treated the issue. There's nobody who has put it on a bigger pedestal than Adam Schiff.
Right.
And so for now him to be at the center of this latest controversy, I think rightly provokes some consternation as to whether he can be trusted to navigate the intricacies of this process. And then on top of that, Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, I generally do not like him, but it's pretty indisputable that since before he assumed office, you've had pretty out there machinations against him on the part of the national security state apparatus, whether it's the CIA, the FBI, arguably the NSA, and again, that was even before he took office, and it's continued till now, where you have the complaint from the whistleblower originating seemingly in the CIA, and not just some kind of low-level CIA lackey who's like, who's like in the broom closet or something, but somebody who has a detail at the White House and was able to work in concert with unnamed White House officials to formulate the kind of narrative around the complaint. So if you have worries about the national security state apparatus acting with quasi-autonomy to override democratic will, then it shouldn't matter whether or not you personally like Trump. You can still want him removed, yet have reservations about the ways in which these security state officials have been leveraged as the chief way to oppose Trump.
I think that's such an important point, that there's a lot more sort of palace intrigue going on here than just, oh, this is a whistleblower, a national hero, like let's just lionize them. And my other piece with this is, look, I think what Trump did on that phone call was bad, right? With the Ukraine, like I don't think you should be holding off military aid to encourage an ally to go after your political opponent. But I think it's very telling what we believe, what Democrats believe is cause for impeachment and not, right? For example, this president has enabled a massive humanitarian crisis in Yemen. Democrats seem less concerned about that than him digging up dirt on Joe Biden. George W. Bush lied to get the nation into war. Hundreds of thousands of people killed. An insane amount of money spent, and presided over a regime of torture. We didn't even investigate that, let alone impeach him over it. So when Americans look at this and say, okay, suddenly now that it's going after one of your guys, once it's challenging another elite institution, that's where you draw the line, I just find that hard to take.
Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House beginning in 2007 for her first go-around, and there was a small but vocal minority of Democrats who wanted to begin an impeachment inquiry, if that's what we're calling it now, against Bush and Cheney because of their manipulation of intelligence that precipitated the Iraq War. And you can go back, I looked at this recently, Nancy Pelosi was on 60 Minutes and she was asked, I believe by Leslie Stahl, what are you going to do with regard to these calls for impeachment? And she said that would be a waste of time.
Wow.
To even consider or contemplate impeachment with respect to the Iraq War. So when you look at that, I mean, it's not ancient history, it was 2006.
Right, and she, like then, was in charge.
Right, and she was in the same position that she's in now. And you have to wonder, why is it that this became such an immediate priority for Democrats, in contrast with the whole host of other issues that Trump could potentially, or any other president really, could be potentially investigated and impeached on, whether it's, illegal surveillance, illegal wars, all manner of civil liberties violations. It doesn't get into their consciousness in the way that this did, and you have to wonder why. Does it have to do with the fact that there was a kind of cadre of elites who kind of, I'm not going to say conspired, but at least coordinated or orchestrated amongst themselves to foist this upon the public in a way that warrants some skepticism.
That's the point that you're making, which is, look, this happened to Trump, but like if progressives think that a similar an anti-establishment president is going to take the helm and not face massive backlash within the state, you have another thing coming. I mean, these people are entrenched. The multiple whistleblowers now, I've seen these reports circulating online, multiple whistleblowers now, thinking about coming forward. I mean, you have literally elements of the security state thinking about taking information that is inside that apparatus, weaponizing it, and using it to the impeachment advantage. I mean, what other word do we have for that? Like, if this were happening in Turkey, we would be like, this is a coup. This is a security state trying to take out the president or the duly elected leader. This is undemocratic behavior fundamentally, and anybody who is anti-establishment should be very worried about this.
Right, because what you're doing is you're enshrining a precedent where this is seen as legitimate behavior on the part of the security state.
Right.
Right, and that should be troubling irrespective of who the president happens to be, because if it's somebody who I may agree with more, who occupies the Oval Office, now the CIA and FBI officials and other members of other agencies can refer to what happened here if it's actually carried out to fruition, and say it's been done before, it can be done now, and even if the grounds are spurious, even if there's some dubious aspects to how it all came about, now the government acts on precedent. I mean, it's not just a judicial thing. We're talking about Watergate now because it serves as sort of like the theoretical precedent for what is being undertaken currently. And that's what's being done. And my problem, one of them, is that it's been given license, especially by progressives, who put at front of mind solely, take down Trump, come what may. And they don't think about the broader implications of what is the most convenient mechanism by which you take down Trump, what it might be doing to the body politic in a way that's really troubling.
But even that, even if your goal is just take down Trump, this seems like a catastrophically stupid way of going about it. I mean, look, the guy is great in a fight. Right? And Democrats have decided to die on the hill of his corruption is illegal and ours is totally fine. Right? So Joe Biden, and we've got a clip from him responding, look, what Hunter Biden sitting on the board of Burisma making $50K, yeah, that's probably legal. But are Americans okay? Are we okay with the fact that the son of the sitting vice president who has Ukraine in his portfolio is sitting on this board cashing in on his access to the vice president? I think the overwhelming majority of Americans would say, no, that's disgusting. That's part of why we are so disgusted with Washington. And let's take a listen to how the vice president is attempting to respond to this.
How is your role as vice president in charge of policy in Ukraine and your son's job in Ukraine? How is that not a conflict of interest?
It's not a conflict of interest. There's been no indication of any conflict of interest from Ukraine or anywhere else. Period. I'm not going to respond to that. Let's focus on the problem. Focus on this man, what he's doing that no president has ever done. No president.
And again, Michael, what Trump did is not okay. But to say there's no conflict of interest, like him sitting on the board when you're vice president and overseeing the Ukraine policy, that is like the definition of a conflict of interest.
Doesn't Trump do like 10 million things a day that are not okay?
Of course.
Right. Well, so why is this one singularly impeachable? Right. I think one of the fallacies here, and I almost feel bad watching that Joe Biden clip. It's almost, you have to take pity on him in a sick way, given his obvious incapacities. But now, one thing that Democrats are trying to suggest is that this episode is so aberrational and so singularly damning that it warrants impeachment. And I don't know that people are necessarily going to buy that. I know it might sound like a right-wing talking point, but what was the Steele dossier if not an attempt to leverage the political power of a major figure, in that case Hillary Clinton. I'm not trying to do whataboutism. I'm trying to isolate what the principle is here, that we're supposed to believe warrants the impeachment of a president, which is the most dramatic step you can take constitutionally within our system. So if the idea is that soliciting foreign assistance to further your political ends is itself wrong and evil and impeachable, then, I mean, the Steele dossier was exactly that, in that they did it less overtly, right? So Trump just goes on the phone and blurts out, hey, maybe it would be a good idea to investigate Biden, and then releases a transcript.
Right.
So he's more blatant and ostentatious about it.
And Hillary Clinton didn't have the power of the state and the ability to withhold military aid and those sort of levers of power to pull.
Well, she had a lever of power to pull in the sense that she was expected to win the presidency, and therefore garnering influence with her was going to be advantageous to whoever could provide something of value to her.
Well, we have to leave it there, Michael, unfortunately, but thank you so much for joining us. Really interesting.
Thank you, Michael. Great to see you in person.
Thanks.
Next on Rising, for the 6th year in a row, the life expectancy rate in Missouri has dropped to record lows.
Journalist Charles Lehman describes how it represents a growing amount of deaths of despair across the country when Rising continues.